to the P.I.G Variety Hour. We have another episode of On the Couch for you today with our fantastic guest, a man with plenty of history, Mr. Randy Hansen.
Me?
Yes.
All right.
And I brought in, as always, an expert on the subject matter today. Today's subject matter, of course, is Randy. So I brought in his manager, Kevin Fillo. Mr. Fillo, how long have you been managing Randy?
Wow. 1984.
And how long have you known him?
I met him when I was 16 years old.
16 years old.
I was working for another local Seattle band. I was helping them out.
What was their name?
Two of them. One of them was called Christmas. The other one was called Child.
Child. I saw Child many a time.
And the Child, at one time, the two guys, the lead Child, Tim and Lance at the time, they kind of got rid of everybody else and hired a new band. That band ended up being Christmas. Three guys from Christmas who joined. That band then, we ended up getting a gig in Moscow, Idaho at a place called the Upper Crust and Dispensary, opening for Randy for 2 nights in a row. And that's the night I met Randy, was there at the Upper Crust and Dispensary in Moscow, Idaho.
Boy, I didn't even know they had any dispensaries in Idaho today.
Well, yeah, and this was when I was 16. I never thought about that. They had a place called the Dispensary already.
Amazing. So there you have it, our expert on Randy, and of course we have Randy. How are you today, Randy?
Oh, I'm lousy.
Lousy?
Yeah,
Oh, you look great to
I'm
me.
doing really good.
You were off for a while for COVID, but you've recently played was just one show or more than one?
Just one.
Okay, and I'm not
We've
counting
only
the
done
shows
one
in your
real-
backyard.
I've only done one real official show.
And that was
some
the
other
one at
people
the
tried to help me out with-
Theater?
Yeah.
Your local show.
Yeah.
Yes, I was actually there. I enjoyed it very much.
It's nice when it's that close to my house, I don't have to drive so far.
So we're going to touch on all your history, Herbie Hancock, Apocalypse Now, the Shrapnel records, the Atlantic records. But I want to go back.
This is Capitol.
That one's Capitol.
I didn't have anything on Atlantic.
Yes, my slip of the tongue.
I don't know what Apocalypse Now is. I don't know what the label on that is.
And then this one, Shrapnel.
And I'm not sure the label on this Herbie Hancock one either. It probably says it on there, but it's all covered up now.
Indeed it does, but we'll flip them over.
I know
later.
that's Shrapnel, and I know that's Capitol, but those two I'm not sure.
So, but I want to start at the beginning. So, 1975, is that when the Randy Hansen group kind of got going?
Well, it got started in 1975 by being in this other comedy group that I was in called Kid Chrysler and the Cruisers. And the leader of that band had the idea of making fun of rock stars is what his idea was. And when he asked me who I wanted to make fun of him, I said, I don't want to make fun of him, but I want to do Jimi Hendrix. So he said, okay, we'll do that part serious, and then everything else we'll make fun of, which was Mick Jagger, John Cage, Randy Bachman, and Alice Cooper. So
really? I would have loved to have seen this band.
Yeah, it was really funny. I mean, their parts of it were pretty funny, especially the Randy Bachman part. It was just hilarious. But the Hendrix part of that show ended up being so liked, I guess, that they started getting requests from other places for us to play, and they wanted the Hendrix show. They were asking for the Hendrix show. Now, Gary McKinney started this 50s comedy band. He didn't want that to die around this. So he said, I'm going to let you out of the band, and all you have to do is put a band together, and they're all ready to book you. And I said, okay. And I didn't know how to put a band together. But then the bass player and the drummer of that band called me up and said, we want to go with you. And so I had a band. Now Gary was completely out of a band. So it kind of backfired on him. It took him a while to get another band together. But he was the one who had to put a band together, not me.
Yeah, well, that band.
So, and then that band stayed together right up until I got the offer for Capitol Records. But then they didn't like the demo. They didn't think that the musicianship was up to par. So they said, we like Randy, but we don't like the band. So if he want a record deal, he has to change the band. And then it hurt like hell to do this because the bass player and I grew up together. And I didn't see any reason really. I kicked myself. I should have said to him, fine, we're drawing 4,500 people a night. You don't want to sign me? Great. And I should have just stuck to my guns, I think.
Who became the band on that record?
I came back to Seattle and I got a guy named Charlie Tapp on the drums, who incidentally was the drummer for Christmas that Kevin was just talking about. And the bass player is a guy named Scott Rosberg. And he'd been in bands around Seattle, was pretty famous for his singing and his playing. Good guitar player, good bass player, and kind of a wild guy. But so that's how we ended up on that record.
And so you started
with
the other...
that band started out, and we went out and tried to advertise this album as much as we could and everything. And then that band immediately broke up at the end of the tour and everything because the bass player was, I think he wanted the spotlight and deserved the spotlight, really. But just too big egos in the same band, And, I try to keep my ego hidden a little bit. I don't like my ego to go right out there, but I'm sure I have an ego somewhat, because it bothered me a little bit that he was vying for my spotlight while we were up there. So, but competition, I learned to compete, So I would have kept him in the band, but we weren't getting along at the end of the tour. So that was the end of that.
They ended up, you guys were like competition. It was like he tried to always outdo. He tried to always.
He would take my tricks. He would take my tricks and
first.
do them before I could get to him.
He'd do it before Randy. He'd jump off the stage first.
Yeah.
He'd backflip onto it first. He'd do everything as he learned what it was. And
he used to watch me and learn what I was doing, and then he figured out how to do it, and then he would go and do it before me. Like that, I'm going, Scott, what are you doing? That's not very nice.
So was that an American tour, or did you guys actually do a world tour?
It was an American tour.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't go anywhere else. We just all America, but we hit just about every state.
Okay, and so prior to the 1980 release of this, you guys basically spent 4 or 5 years playing around the United States.
Yeah.
In
Canada.
In Canada, okay.
Yeah,
and,
mostly the United States and Canada. And that was it, but we went from coast to coast.
So, and
several times.
Obviously, you started before 1974, but you've been playing Hendrix your entire life.
Yeah, when I started playing the guitar, after a few years of playing, someone mentioned Jimi to me, and I didn't know who he was, and he schooled me on it. And when I heard Jimi, I was like, oh my God, this is a guitar. So I couldn't believe that it was a guitar I was hearing, and how did he do that? It sounded totally magic to me.
I would have to agree. One of my favorite artists ever, I would say top 5. Briefly describe what Jimi Hendrix means to you, because I believe it means everything.
Well, what he ended up meaning to me is like when I started learning to play the guitar, it was because of a neighbor who was trying to help me through my father's death when I was 10 years old. And he decided to forcefully teach me to play the guitar, where I couldn't visit his son without taking a guitar lesson. He gave me no choice in the matter, and was pretty rough about it, really. I mean, he threw me in a chair and then said, stay right there, and then got a guitar and started showing me how to play it, and then trained my ear. He was amazing. The guy, as a music teacher, was a real natural music teacher. He taught me how to do vibrato on the string. He said, hold that string down. Now imagine that there's some rust right there, and the only way to get it off is to wiggle that string like that and rub it off. Now hit a note.
Yeah.
And I went, oh. He goes, now you're doing vibrato. So he gave me a way to think about everything before he would ask me to do it. That way I would pick it up quicker. Something that I already knew how to do.
And when did it lead into Hendrix?
Well, then, after I heard about Jimmy, I was already lifting songs off the records. And when I heard Jimmy, then I could lift the melodies and everything, but his lead playing, I was going like, whoa, you know. And it took me a while to start picking up on a lot of it. I'm still working on a lot of it, because he does things that defy time. I don't know. He throws stuff in at a weird timing, and only Jimmy knows how to do this.
No,
you know, there's things that he does that I've worked hours trying to figure out, and I go like, it's all in his timing, and I just can't get that timing. You know, I could get a lot of it, but I'll never get it. I could make it, and I have made it my life's work, and I still don't have it all of what this guy came up with in 3 years or something. I mean, of course he learned how to play. You know, I don't know how long it took Jimmy to actually learn, but I'm 66 years old and I'm still learning from him. So that's what boggles my mind. This is he lived to be 27 years old, and I'm learning from a kid, basically.
Yes, and now he was self-taught, right? Was he self-taught?
Yeah,
yes.
pretty much.
So, still to this day, one of the most unique guitar players ever.
I think he's just a genius.
And you have been playing Hendrix longer than anybody, longer than Jimi Hendrix, longer than anybody else alive. And
I don't know that for a fact. There's probably somebody sitting there.
I do.
You know,
maybe, sorry, Randy.
Maybe
you have the Hendrix market.
I'm the best, like Jimmy said. I'm the best known one sitting in this chair.
Correct. Okay, so this record's coming out in 1980. It's self-titled, coming out on Capitol. Right. I keep saying Atlantic, but it's Capitol. Okay.
And if Atlantic is listening, if you're still out there, I got another record in me for sure.
Oh, you have many more records in you, many more. So now that's 1980, but in '79, Apocalypse Now came out.
Right.
So
I was already doing Jimmy, and then they heard about me, and he had already approached the Hendrix family about having Jimmy
and
stuff.
When you say he, who are we referring to? Francis Ford Coppola.
And he'd already approached them about it, and they wanted too much money. And he was over budget already, so he couldn't afford it. And so he heard about me over breakfast, looking through the newspaper and seeing that I was on my way to San Francisco to play. And so as soon as he saw the ad, he got in touch with the people who made the ad, and they got in touch with us. And I ended up being flown out in the middle of a tour. I had a day off or something. They flew me out for one day to San Francisco to talk to him. And I didn't know who he was. I had no idea who this guy was. I thought he was just a little tiny movie thing that he was doing, you know.
No, he was the greatest director of our time.
But he wasn't big yet at that time.
No, he wasn't.
You know?
Well, he was.
He was pretty big, yes.
He was the Godfather director already, you know. So he was pretty big. And when people told me who he was, when they said, this is the guy that did The Godfather, it was after he interviewed me to see if I wanted to do it. And because I thought he was so small, I'm sure I came off kind of cocky, you know, because I went there, you know, and I go like, you know, I don't have a whole lot of time, kind of thing, you know, and he wanted to know if I could sound like Jimi Hendrix if I could make things up that sounded like Hendrix. I said, sure, that's not a problem.
No problem.
You know, I said, not a problem at all. And it really isn't. I mean, after you learn how the guy plays,
you were born to do it. So.
You know, you learn to play in that style. If you're going to, you know, listen to John McLaughlin all your life, chances are you're going to end up sounding like him. So I said, yeah, no problem. And it was a very short interview. He just said, well, it pays double scale. Do you want it? I said, yeah, okay. Like that. And I went back, and then I started telling people that I was doing this movie with a guy named Francis Ford Coppola. And their eyes lit up. They're going, you're kidding me. And I'm going like, no, why? Who's Francis Ford Coppola? And then they fill me in, oh, this is the guy that did The Godfather. I went, oh my God, really? That's him? I go, does he look kind of like Brutus? And you go, yeah, that's him. I go, wow. amazing, you know?
Yeah, he was amazing.
Yeah, so while I worked on the movie, I kind of became his toy for a while. He was bringing investors in and showing them that I was putting what I was doing in the movie, and then he'd always ask me to play the Star Spangled Banner for him with my teeth, and then a lot of other things. I mean, before it was legal, it's legal now, but he was smoking a couple joints a day with me, you know, and then rolling me a couple that he brought in from the Philippines.
My guess is, we're speaking marijuana here, my guess is, so the marijuana we have today is much better than the marijuana we had when we were younger.
But not better than this.
That's what I was going to say. I'm going to guess that was probably some of the best weed you ever had in your life.
It was grown in a tropical climate, so it was real.
So
it was some good bud, you know,
and stuff better than today. So.
In fact, if you watch the making of Apocalypse Now, the part that I'm in starts with this hand coming away from me, from giving me a toke. And you see this big puff of smoke come off of the hand, and that's Francis's hand. But you can't see it. All you see is about this much of his arm. Just the scene starts with that, with his hand coming away like that. And I went, oh, I can't believe he threw that in there. Now I'm holding on to this toke and trying to play.
You did, was it 17 minutes worth of music in there?
18 and a half.
Okay. Yeah, on the internet they have 17, 18, and 19. So
the internet has any answer you want.
You got it. So you did all the scenes which sound like Hendrix?
I did some other scenes that don't sound like Jimmy. Like there's the scene where the Playmates are dancing for all the music guys.
Was great.
And then at the end of that, all hell breaks loose and they start rushing the stage, and then Bill Graham rushes everybody into a helicopter and starts taking off. There's a guy dangling from it. Right when the helicopter lifts off, I start with this and it's going like that, but I'm using a volume now, so it's going. It's supposed to be kind of acid-like or something, but he threw that in there.
And that's when Lance said
that's the first scene
as well, right?
Then that's the first scene that I used. Then the next one is when the puppy's with him and he's high on acid and he jumps down into the. That's when you hear what everybody thinks is Jimi Hendrix, but it's me. And I'm on the radio and they turn me off and then blow the guy off in the woods. And then the other scene, the biggest scene, was the bass guitar.
Oh, you did the bass.
I did everything you're hearing there sound-wise, other than the jungle sounds, is all me. There's there's a rush of comes in and stuff where I've had this buried a little bit, and then like that, and get it like that, and it does all kinds of. So it's, and I'm making it sing with I have a cannon end of a mic cord. These don't have it, but the bigger regular mics you use on stage and everything, and I'm rubbing that on the strings to get this through an echoplex to get the melody that I'm using and everything. Like David Gilmour in Live at Pompeii, I stole the trick from him, so I might as well give him the prop, right? So I got all that going in there, and we recorded it, and then Francis walked in and said, "What are you working on?" And he told him, and he got really angry because that scene had already been filled. And he got really pissed off, and he started yelling at David Rubinson, and yelled at him for quite a while, and then said, "Okay, roll it. I want to see this with the film." And so they rolled it, and he sat there motionless and watched it. And I was thinking, I dig it. I think it's pretty cool and everything. And he gets through watching it. They turn the lights back on. He looks over at me and he goes, "That was fucking great. You know what? We're going to use that." So all that yelling was just negated after he heard it, because what are you doing working on this scene? well, him and his father were in a little bit of a tiff at the moment over me, which was because his dad was showing me some melodies on the piano when Francis walked in one day, and Francis yelled at his dad in front of me about, what are you doing, wasting his time, or, you know, he's really paranoid about wasting time, you know. And so his dad stood up and says, I will not be talking with you. You yell at me in front of the boy. And then he walked out. And then they were not speaking. And then this is the next thing that happened the very next day. And then Francis said, you know, we're going to use that. And I think that it was a little bit more of a dig because now they got a little personal war going with each other. I won't be talking, well, you know what? I won't be using your little thing. You know, what he wrote. And I asked Francis, what was it that I'm replacing? He goes, it's an 80-voice choir, and it's a symphony orchestra, and we assembled the choir and the orchestra off of the best players in all the choirs and orchestras around the nation. We wanted the best one we could assemble. And then we recorded this thing that my dad wrote, and we put them up in a hotel for a week, that many people for a week, and then paid each one scale. So it was an astronomical amount of money that they spent on this one thing, which ended up on the cutting room floor, replaced by my bass guitar and guitar.
So,
and I'm going like, this guy's insane.
So all those people that could have been in Apocalypse Now, it's your fault they're not.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. Oh my God, they probably went home bragging, I'm going to be in this movie. And I didn't even think about that. No, you're not. So like, oh, man.
Okay, now have you ever heard of Herbie Hancock?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the greatest ever. So you play on here.
Right, on two songs.
On two songs.
Yeah.
How
did that happen?
Yeah. How do you wind up on one of the greatest records ever?
Okay, because of Apocalypse Now that is produced by David Rubinson. He was the one that Francis was yelling at, right? Well, David Rubinson he started out as Carlos Santana's manager, and he left, and I believe Bill Graham ended up managing him. But him and Bill Graham were really tight. And now he was like, so when Francis wanted a producer, he picked him because he's probably the best known producer in San Francisco. He owned his own studio and everything. We didn't use David's studio, although that probably bummed him out. But we went to another place called Richard Begg's studio. It's in that triangular building in San Francisco. It's all green.
Is that Transamerica?
No, it's really old.
Okay.
It's really old. It's on the street corners, even in the Star Wars movie. But anyway, what were we talking about? Oh, how did I get... So he was managing Herbie Hancock, the Pointer Sisters, Cold Blood, Moby Grape, and some disco people too. Sylvester, the guy was pretty big in disco era. And so because he was managing Herbie Hancock, I don't know, they must have had a conversation or something. Hey, bring that guy down here. He plays like Hendrix. So I ended up in David's studio with Herbie, and the first song they just basically taught me how it went, and then said, okay, here's your section right here. We just want you to put a solo in there. So I did, and that was okay. I thought, yeah, all right. Anything that's brand new like that, you just wonder, how am I doing? It happened so quick that I didn't even think about it. I don't remember what I did. And then he said, okay, the next song, I want to trade back and forth with you. So we're going to go to battle with each other. So I'm going to set up my keyboard that I stand up with. And I'll stand at this end of the room, you stand at the other end of the room, and we'll trade back and forth.
Battle. Awesome.
And so that's how this other solo went down. And so that's how I ended up on that record. He had some other people, he had some singers on it. And he was trying to, this is the album, if I remember right, before he did Rocket. That was a hit on MTV, which was mind-blowing for a jazz guy to have a hit on MTV.
Yeah,
and it was because that video was crazy.
Everywhere.
That video was crazy, you know.
No,
I really liked it.
He was
the
fabulous.
dancing legs. It was so weird.
Yeah, he must have been fun to work with.
Herbie was really, in fact, every time he sees me, he sneaks up behind me and puts his hands over my eyes, and then he can't stop himself from laughing. And as soon as, now I know that it's him, because nobody else does this to me. But in the beginning, I'm going like, okay, who is it? And then I heard him laugh, and I went, it's Herbie. That's Herbie. And then I turn around, and it's him. So you can't keep from laughing now when he does it. So I know it's him every time.
Now, Kevin, Randy mentioned Bill Graham, which the older listening audience clearly knows who that is. For historical purposes, or could you kind of give the younger audience a little background on Bill Graham?
Well, I mean, he was just, at the time, he was
the greatest show producer in America.
Greatest show producer in America. I mean, he did Bill Graham Presents. Any big major event was put on by Bill Graham Presents back then. You know, he really was the king of producing live.
I don't know.
Also, you know, he's an immigrant too. You know, his family immigrated, and they came from really low. You know, they didn't have much when he started. Everything, he just broke into the business somehow. You know.
Yeah, I don't know if we have the equivalent of him today. I don't think there is.
Anybody else?
I don't think there is, because it's got so spread up, and we have all these big conglomerate companies now that run corporations. We don't have a guy like that really is behind it. We have corporations these days that it's all about the money. It's not about the show, you know.
Yeah. Now this Rubenstein you mentioned.
Rubenson.
Rubenson. I quite knowledgeable on the Moby Grape story, and their management, I guess, with him didn't go so well. Did he?
Well, actually, nobody's management with him went that well. Everybody,
he managed.
Everybody that I talked to, who was managed by him, had kind of not so great of opinion of him.
Yeah, I know Moby Grape gets none of the money.
Yeah, and you know, I don't know. After I left him, there was not another word spoken between us.
Okay, that's what I saw. So it wasn't just a problem with Moby Grape. You also had issues with him.
Well, yeah, there was some. He really messed up, and he did some things that were kind of dastardly. I don't need to go into. But,
no.
But you know, it's just another typical. You know, you get into this music business, you kind of sign up for a little bit of that. You know, there's going to be people that'll try to take advantage of you in one way or another. So you just have to be on the lookout best you can. But when it comes to bigger things, like a Capitol record deal or things like that, there's a certain amount of sacrifice that you'll have to make when you're new, until you have a real foothold in the business. Then you can start calling your shots and renegotiating things, you know, and just stand. You know, it's like Prince said, "Okay, I'm not Prince anymore. I'm this signet, that sign right there. That's me now."
I recall that.
Yeah,
I never understood it.
That was a battle with the record companies. He had the only way he could get out of his contract be something else.
It's not be called Prince.
Right. I'm not that anymore, because it says in the contract, you know.
They own the name Prince.
Right.
Okay, so before we move on, you're working on a comic book for Big Comics.
Yes.
And obviously, we don't want you to give the plot away, but you actually are sharing some
It's about true stories, true funny stories. You know, I want to do a bunch of them if possible. I guess that'll be up to people.
Well,
if they
I
like
think we're doing a 5-volume set.
Really?
You're working on volume 1.
Right.
5, yeah.
Yeah,
and we like to do sets of 5.
volume 1 is done except for coloring the cover, and I've got an idea for that that I think it needs to be done with a computer in order to get the colors right on it. So I'll have to figure that out, how to cover the color of the cover, because it's going to be tricky. I want a night scene on there, which means I want it to be blue, but I want it to fade to blue. And there's also going to be some fire in there, so I want, the reflection on the one guy's face on this side to be of the fire. This side will be of the blue light, like of the moon or something.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. I love it. And you are so well at describing things. So.
Right.
Okay, so this comic is tentatively set for March of 2022. We don't have an exact date yet, but more will be coming. So moving forward to one of my favorite record companies, Shrapnel Records.
Right.
They also put out Manila Road,
Mike Varney.
Mike Varney.
Yes.
What a man.
And one where the main focus behind his label, he kind of focused metal, hard rock, but the main focus was he liked guitar players.
Right.
And as
a guitar player himself, too.
yes.
He's a pretty good guitar player, too.
Yes. He put out these U.S. metal albums. They were great. And yeah, we knew him as a guitar-heavy record label. Once again, it was one of my favorites. I still have many of his records in my garage here.
Now, he was friends with another guy from the band Christmas, Jeff Pilson, who now is pretty getting some fame of his own and stuff. He come from playing with the band Dokken, and he's the bass player for Foreigner right now.
He's a hell of a songwriter too.
Yeah, he writes. We even put a band together a long time ago that never really got off the ground because there was too many contractual. We had Vinny Appice on drums.
Really?
And he was contracted to Ronnie James Dio at the time and everything, and we had to keep it quiet while we were working with him. And we got the whole record recorded, but then it couldn't be worked out. And then some other weird shit happened where they ended up firing me because of something I said in the recording studio. He asked me how was that? I just finished the last solo of the record. And they said, how was that? And I said, it's good enough. And they said, what do you mean good enough? It's got to be great. Like that. And then they just attacked me for quite a while. Everybody was pumped up in their defense. Everybody was pumped up because it was the last thing and everything. And I just let them go, while they basically unloaded on me. And then the next day, Jeff came to my apartment at behest of the bass player, who was all the time, on my case. He'd never seen me play. I didn't have his respect, and he was saying, we got to get rid of him. He's not the right guitar player. So Jeff showed up and the next day at my apartment and said, well, we don't think you're the right guitar player. And I said, okay, fine. And I said, it's a business decision. I said, if you don't think I'm right, that's okay. I can understand that. I'm a kind of a throwback guitar player anyway, but even though what I played on this is more of the times, there's a lot. You wouldn't probably even guess that it was me on it if you heard it, because it's way more metal and
there was a huge
kind of more Dio-ish or something, about it, or AC/DC-ish also, and so that was like that, So I wasn't like, it wasn't really my cup of tea anyway.
What happened to that record?
You can hear it on YouTube. It's called Flesh and Blood. What does it come
Bring
up
up Snake Eyes.
Snake Eyes.
Bring up Snake Eyes.
Kill for the Love of God is another
great
song.
songs.
Really?
There's some really good songs on it, actually. I listened to it today, and I play it for people because the drums are recorded at Sound City, which is very famous, studio in LA. Now Dave Grohl owns all that equipment.
Wow.
And they always got great drum sounds. So we went there for the drum sound. And we recorded everything else there also, but then they took it to another studio to mix it. And I laid my guitar solos on in a completely different studio and everything. But the basic tracks were all at Sound City. And you can tell it just sounds great. I love the guitar sounds on it. I could play it for anyone, and I just sit there like, you know, really nice,
I will have to give it a listen. But back to your record. So when,
but anyway, Jeff Pilson is on there. A guy named Mark Nelson on drums, and then me. And we had another band together, which had another guy from Christmas, the keyboard player, was in this band that we were trying to start.
So it's Christmas all the time.
And we actually went and played in quite a few places. We traveled, you know, all the way up the West Coast and played quite a few shows together, but we couldn't get that off the ground. And I think that I was being worked at this point by David Rubinson, you know, that like, we're going to make you poor before we make you rich so that I can get a hold on you, you know. And so I think that that's what happened. They didn't put their best effort together in trying to record that band and get an actual record out and shop it. It just didn't happen. We even had a song written for us by Narda Michael Walden, who wrote Pink Cadillac, you know, and the song he wrote was beautiful, really great. They did shop that and couldn't get a bite on it.
That just shocks me.
It's really great shit, you know, and I love that song. It's called You Can Have My Lovin'. And really well written. It was really one of the songs. And the chord structure in it was like really unique. Something like, you know, he wrote all that stuff for Jeff Beck, and this has that kind of quality to it.
Wow.
You know, so I wanted to do it as an instrumental, you know, just because the melody is really strong in it, and the chord structure is really strong, and everything. It's got all the qualities of a great Jeff Beck ballad type stuff that he does.
Yes. Now, the common word on the street is you don't use dentafloss, you use guitar strings.
9 through 42.
Can you do a short demonstration with your teeth?
Flossing with my teeth. Well, let me demonstrate first before I actually do it how I'm picking the guitar. Now, people said Jimmy bit the strings. They think he's like going like this and going like that. I don't think he's doing that. I think he's doing this, because you can have a string like this and just get your teeth right on it, and then all you have to do is go.
Oh, okay. All right.
So you can go and pick notes like that, or you can kind of chicken pick them like.
I don't think anybody has ever explained how to play with your teeth before. That's brilliant. Oh, yeah.
For people looking, that looks like you're just biting at it.
So to you, it looks like I'm biting them, right? Mm-hmm. So people don't really, or you can't really tell what I'm doing.
Yes.
So people ask me all the time,
you just explained it to me. I was actually watching it.
Yeah.
Are you really picking it with your teeth? And I go, yeah, I'm picking it with my teeth for real. Because the first time I tried to do it, I was picking too high and I was getting it up here on my gums. And I cut my gums up the first time that I did it. And I ended up with blood all over the front of my guitar and everything, you know, which wasn't too cool. But, and then blood all over my teeth too, so I didn't look that great smiling after that, you know. So I had to learn how to do it correctly, you know. And then there's other things, like I do a back roll. I've done running forward rolls and stood up in a backward roll. And the first time I tried the backward roll, I accidentally jammed the guitar right into my teeth, and it hurt like hell. I gave myself a fat lip and everything, a bloody lip. And then then I figured, okay, I got to hold the guitar down while I do the roll. And I can't, so I'll sit there and go like, and then do the roll, and then it doesn't smack me in the teeth. It's all stuff I had to learn, in order to be able to do some of these wild ass shit, You got a whole bunch of them like that, like learning how to play between your legs or behind your back or behind your head is easy. But behind your back is not that easy, because you can't really see what you're doing. So you have to rely on your ear, and hopefully you're placing your fingers in the right place. And I've gotten pretty good at that. There's all this stuff that I do now, I've had enough practice at it that it's all comes second nature now.
No, I'm pretty amazed when that guitar is between your legs or in your teeth that you can.
Like I wanted to learn how to play some stuff like I do some things that I never saw Jimmy do, holding the guitar like this and then playing it like this. That, and if you start playing like that, people go, "What the fuck are you doing?" I just want to do a couple of things. There goes my mic. I always want to do a couple of things that you never seen a guitar player do, so that people they drag someone with them the next time. Say, "You got to watch this. This guy's doing some things I've never seen."
You're doing some things I've never seen.
To me, that's the name of longevity in this business at this point, because being a rock star is nothing new anymore. But being one that, like, I used to watch wrestling, and my favorite wrestler was this guy named Eric Froelich, and he was amazing. He was one of the first wrestlers that did gymnastics inside the ring and flips off the top rope and stuff. And he was in there in his bare feet, and he was this German guy. Everything. I used to watch him and go, God, that's amazing. And then when I saw Jimmy do his back roll with a guitar on, I went, okay, that's me. That's what I want to do. I want to do stuff like that. And I already knew how to do. We practiced high jumping, so we practiced the Fosbury flop. So Jimmy did back rolls, but he didn't run at a stage and do a Fosbury flop onto the stage and stand up.
What is a Fosbury?
That's where Dick Fosbury was a high jumper, and he learned the way that they high jump now. Over with their back. Gotcha. They go over backwards like that. So I learned how to do that, and then this guy a long time ago said, hey, you should try to do everything you know how to do. And I went, okay. So I tried the Fosbury flop one time on the stage, and it worked really good. People went, whoa, and it became like probably my best trick, is to go run at the stage, jump, let the stage hit the back of my legs, and it flips me so fast that it looks like I did a backflip, and I stand up.
Wow.
So it looks like I just did a backflip onto the stage and stood up. Everybody's like, whoa.
Now, your acting abilities extend beyond the stage. James Franco.
Yeah.
This film, Sonny. Now, you were in this film.
Yeah, I play a street musician in it, and James Franco comes up to me drunk because he just found out that his best friend is actually his dad, and that he's dead now, and so he ends up going to a bar, getting really drunk, and then walking down the street, and he runs into me while he's really drunk, and I shove him back like that, and I won't let him get by me. And then I pick the guitar up and start playing it with my teeth and flicking my tongue at him. And then he works his way by me, and I just stay out there playing while he goes into the bar, and then he comes floating back out after getting one more drink. Now he's just so drunk he's floating. So they put him on a little, you don't see this, but he's on a little trolley. It's like a little train thing. It's on rails. And they put him on that, and then there's a thing holding his head still, so no matter what they, because they're gonna tug that thing towards him with a rope. towards the camera. So it's tugging him towards the camera, and you see this. And they're using some kind of lens that does something weird to the background. As he's coming towards the camera, the background either goes further and further away or closer up, or something weird's happening there. Some kind of weird trick lens that they had. So he's floating out. They do it like this, and he looks like he's floating. And he just floats right out of the bar. And I'm still out there playing out there, and that's my scene.
Any other acting?
Yes, I'm in a Devo video.
Oh, yes, I wanted to touch on that. You're in a Devo video
As Jimi.
As Jimi. And yeah, Kevin, once again, most of us know who Devo is, but for historic perspective, can you elaborate a bit?
How do I explain who Devo is?
Just describe them.
YouTube. Devo.
Sort of founders of maybe pop punk.
They were really,
I guess that would be
You know,
it.
they were a lot like Kraftwerk, if you know who Kraftwerk was.
Oh my, of course.
On the Autobahn or whatever that song was that they had. I'm sure that influenced them. It was when electronic music started to emerge.
Yes, they had the flower
And they
pots
were
and
out
they-
there, and everybody, I remember, because they came out on Saturday Night Live, this is where everybody heard them, and they were doing Satisfaction by the Rolling Stones, but it didn't sound like Satisfaction at all.
It sounded like Devo.
Satisfaction! You know, and it's just really, they just went really B-52s with it, but which hadn't even existed yet, but, you know, it's like if David Byrne was going to do it, you know, that kind of stuff, and it spawned, you know, Kraftwerk and Devo spawned a lot of other groups that wanted to go that direction, and, you know, go out and buy a synthesizer and start making weird noises and just doing weird things to music. You know, I thought it was cool direction. I even started trying to, you know, see what I could do in that direction too, but I never ended up liking anything that I tried to do that way.
Everybody has their style, and yours is
Of my own
yes.
stuff. I like their stuff, but I just couldn't seem to fit that glove at all.
So I believe they were selling triple platinum at the time, which is about 3 million units. And so
And then they had a dream, or David Casales, I forget what his Casales' first name is, but he had a dream that Hendrix came to him and said, "You have to record Are You Experienced?" And so they did. And he told me about the dream, and he had the idea of having me play Jimi because they'd seen me play before. So he called me up and he said, "Can you still look like Jimi?" And I said, "Yeah, no problem." He goes, "Okay, go get a picture taken with you in a newspaper so we know it's you today, and we'll decide if we're going to use you or not." So I sent him a picture, and they said, "Yeah, you look great. Okay, we're going to use you." So that's how I got the Devo video. And then it's Devo. The weirdest videos you're ever going to make are Devo videos. So I'm in a very, very strange Jimi Hendrix song video by Devo. They really went crazy with it.
What was it like working with Devo? You know, what type of people are they? They're obviously a little different.
You know, I kept looking at them as like, I thought, are you guys from Russia or something? Or, you know, to me they look like they might be spies. I thought, you know, to me they look like Russian spies to me or something. Like, in bad ones, like, oh, it's obvious you guys are Russian. You know, that's what they look like to me. It's obvious you guys aren't from around here at all. Because of the way they looked and just the way they talked, you know, they were so businesslike. When I talked to Casales, he was like, and them, they're just like brutally smart college students. You know, when you meet them and you're just, you know, you're meeting an intellectual. But they're so intellectual all the time that you just go, man, do you ever like get real or something? You know, they struck me a little bit like that. But they weren't completely like that. I mean, the stuff that they were doing to them in that video was so ridiculous, and I'm wondering, why aren't they laughing their asses off at what they're doing? You know, in between takes or so. That was great, you know. Now I'm laughing at it. I'm going, that is so. They got, you know, they got these bladders and their things are, everything's inflating and deflating, and their shoulders are going like this, and they're dressed up like hippies, but they're dressed up like Devo too, and their hips are going like this, and their hair grew out suddenly.
Their videos were amazing.
Oh, incidentally, there's 2 kids in that video watching all this stuff happen on the screen. Those are Timothy Leary's children.
Really?
Yeah, and Timothy Leary was there with his wife, so I got to meet him and have lunch with him and his wife and his kids. It was really strange.
We're going to go off tangent a little, and you got to tell us a little more about Timothy Leary.
Well, his wife was dressed in all leopard skin, really tight leopard skin outfit, and she had her hair that kind of brassy red color, and it was like faded to black. To the ends were black, and then she had it all spiked all over her head, and she looked like a punk. She had a lot of makeup on, and she just looked like some kind of wild dominatrix or something. And then he was dressed normal in a suit and everything. He looked just totally normal, like you normally see him. You know, he was in a business suit. We talked about the weather, and I never once brought up acid to him. You know, I wanted to. I wanted to talk about it. Go, you know, I just want to let you know that I did some acid too. You know, but I didn't want to bring up anything that I thought might make him uncomfortable.
So
I thought that might make him uncomfortable, so I didn't say nothing.
Was he more like a college professor? Or,
yes.
Yeah, so he was.
He really was. And I don't think he was high on acid there while he was there, unless he's just, acid becomes a normality to him or something.
Right. My guess is.
But he was pretty normal. And his wife was pretty normal too, except for the way she appeared. That was the only thing weird about her. I can't believe this is Timothy Leary's wife.
His kids were normal too.
Yeah, totally normal.
So now, Timothy Leary didn't invent acid, but once again, Timothy Leary
was
kind of popularized it and experimented with it.
Brought it more to the forefront.
Right,
you know?
And once again, this is for the younger generation, because those of us all know who Timothy Leary is, and I'm sure most of you do as well. But that's fascinating. So you had lunch with Timothy Leary and his family. Now, speaking of kids, your kids are also quite talented. Your son is a rapper. Tell us a little.
Yeah, my son, he started out doing rap and putting together beats for other rappers and stuff, and doing a lot of that. And he's always been into art like me. I've been an artist ever since I was like 3 years old. And him too, he started when he was very young, and he's gotten so good now with his art. His artwork is incredible. And he's able to paint pretty large pictures and make them look like an actual picture.
I've actually
and all he's doing is spray paint. So he's doing it in graffiti style.
Okay.
But he's using spray cans, and I can't believe he's able to do that.
I'm not familiar with his art. Is this something I can look on the internet to find? Do you know?
Yeah, or you can go drive around West Seattle, and he even did some. See, he did his art. What he's best known for right now is murals, and these metal boxes that you see.
Yes, there's one in West Seattle.
Many in West
Seattle. With a lot of different.
That has Andrew Wood. Did he do that?
Yeah,
yes.
He did that.
Yeah.
That is awesome. I actually stopped and took a picture.
Anyone that you see with a famous Seattleite on, he did it.
There's about 40 of those boxes out there.
No, the one that really
he's got a
stuck
box,
to me was that Andrew Wood. I was like, wow.
He's got a box right across the street from the stadium downtown in his Ken Griffey.
I think I know which one that one is. Okay, so I am.
There's one out right by Lincoln Park, close to the ferry dock in West Seattle. That is his dad.
He started out. He started out making ones of if you were from Seattle and you had died, and receives fairly good notoriety, and he did one for you. And so he did all them, and then he started doing like Martin Luther King and
I've seen
and
that
all
one
kinds
as well.
of all kinds of different people and everything, and he's doing them all the time.
I didn't know
But now
about
he's
his
so
art.
well
About his rap.
he's so well known about that now that he's like booked up for a
He's
couple of
doing
months.
big murals,
in
whole
advance.
sides of buildings, inside giant. He's really
Really
gone
big
doing
murals
big,
and
big
stuff.
things.
Awesome.
I watch
With
him
his
and I
art.
just go like, I'm really proud of him.
And now,
He actually went to prison for graffiti for a year. They gave him a year for graffiti. They gave him a year in prison.
yeah, it seems
So
around
he's
here.
so he's got his props among his peeps. You know, that's like a badge of honor to have sacrificed a year in prison for your art.
Yeah, that seems.
I mean, not every
absurd.
artist can say that. You know, my son did it, and I told him, I said, they'll embrace your art when you get older. I said, it's just because you're young right now that the people that don't like your type of art will die off, and then your generation will be in power. You can paint up as many things as you like then, as long as you get people's permission. And they'll probably. That's what I said to him. It didn't dawn on me that they'd be calling him up and asking him to paint it now. We want your graffiti on our thing, you know. But see, he can do either graffiti or realism or cartoon or whatever you're looking for.
He's a lot like
You
his
can foot the
dad.
bill.
That's amazing. Now your daughter is also quite
She's a
talented.
writer.
She's a romance writer, am I correct?
Yeah. But now she's gonna stretch out. She says she's gonna write a novel now. I guess she's gonna write some kind of novel.
And she has, is it 5 published books?
Yeah,
right
the
now?
other ones that she wrote are romance novels, but she wants to write just an actual story. You know, that's just some kind of wild story, I guess.
Well, the apples don't fall far from the tree. So
We're all
now
pretty creative, I guess.
the you've done a few more releases that we've skipped. You've done there's the Hendrix compilation.
Are you talking about the CDs?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I did many
the 4
CDs.
right?
We've got, I don't know,
we
we've
have
got
way
a
more
lot
than
Way
than
more,
that.
okay.
Yeah. We have a lot of CDs and DVDs.
I think there's about 11.
produced all through the years.
And where can people find these?
RandyHansen.com.
RandyHansen.com.
Yeah.
Store.
You know, I just kept making them.
You take credit cards?
We take credit cards.
And
we take PayPal. We take it all.
Yeah, I'm always writing and everything. I've always got something cooking at home somehow. Everything. Right now, I've been working with an ex-girlfriend of mine who sings really good and writes really good music and everything. So I've been helping her writing her music because she doesn't really play an instrument. But when she writes lyrics, she writes with this meter that is really obvious how to set it to music. For me, it's easy to take her lyrics and put them and set it to music, and then help her through writing a melody. So it's both of us writing. We're writing in the style of Lennon and McCartney. It's like we just fill in the gaps for each other, and then come up with this music. And music is great. The message is great.
She's in a band called Subvinyl Jukebox. And we're going to be doing a couple shows with them upcoming here.
Yeah. Her name's Lori Lowenstein.
Okay.
I don't know if that's her. If she's still going by Lowenstein or not, because she got married.
I knew there was a Steen somewhere.
Yeah.
You stuck that in earlier. That's right.
Yeah.
I
just had the wrong one.
You can call her Lowenstein, I guess.
Good. Well, yeah, we'll definitely come check out this band. I've actually heard a lot about them. So, all right. So now, P.I.G Records we're going to do something new with you. It's a Christmas song, which we don't want to elaborate at this point on too much, and a great B-side. And
I had a brainstorm about it, and it's something that mixing a couple of things together that really have never been mixed together, especially for Christmas. So it'll be, I mean, I tried it out on a bunch of audiences, and every one of the audiences at the end of it stood up and loved it. I wasn't counting on how well accepted this would be, and I don't want to let it go because I don't want anybody to copy it. But I don't know. I figured God just came to me one day and just gave me this idea because I don't know. I can't really figure out how I came up with it.
I don't know how you figured that out either, but it's perfect.
Not only is it perfect, I mean, in my mind, it will be the greatest Christmas song of this century. I mean, it is that good, and I have to give credit to a friend of mine, Dana, who runs M&D Sound, and I was at her studio, and she showed me a clip of it being played acoustically, and I'm like, you know, I've got to have this, and it's all worked out good, and we believe that is coming out in October. We're just finalizing the details now. Now you can talk about the B-side.
Well, I definitely think that this record is going to put people in a good mood.
Oh, absolutely. It's as good as Frosty the Snowman.
If this record doesn't put you in a good mood, no record can put you in a good mood unless you just don't like the genre, I guess, you know. But I can't see anybody listening to this and not grabbing someone and, hey, wait a minute, you got to listen to this, you know.
When I heard it, I could not believe it, but
like that's the response from every single human that hears it.
Really,
it's every single one.
Well, it is because I've played it for
And
three
you've
people,
gotten-
and
you've seen
all
the
three of
response.
them. Holy smokes!
Yeah.
How did he come up with
That's
this?
right.
Well,
It's
you know,
shocking. It's
the
like, how?
idea did come from thinking, how does somebody write the lyrics to this song? Did they listen to maybe another song and kind of copy the way that they wrote lyrics to that song? And that's what gave me the idea. Is maybe he was thinking of something simple, but because I've always thought that the guy who wrote this song wrote very simple songs, and so I thought, okay, well maybe he used a simple song to copy how he wrote the lyrics for this, and that's how I came up with what I came up with. But
You have to.
and it
you'll have to
surprised
wait and
me.
see.
October, everyone.
It surprised me how well it fit. That
It's
what a fit it is.
blew my mind. Okay, so and maybe this is probably a better question for Kevin. When is Randy going back out on the road?
Well, I mean, we're hitting the road next month. May 1st, we're finally
Where are you going?
Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
Dallas International Guitar Festival. Going to be 50, 70 great guitar players there.
Yeah, that sounds like
Going to be a
lot of
fantastic
fun,
jam at the end. Lots of Randy's
and
good
that's where
friends.
Randy
He's going to get to
belongs,
jam with
guitar
some.
festivals.
And it's all happening at the Texas School Book Depository. No.
We're doing Eddie Trunk has a stage there, and so we're going to do a big interview with Eddie Trunk there, and it's really going to be something fun. And we haven't gone anywhere I haven't been home this long all my life. You know, we finally got to do the live show here.
I noticed
This will be
your hair was
our
growing.
next thing, and then through the summer I've got several weekends filled festivals throughout the country. Got one in New York, North Carolina, just scattered
So you're
throughout.
gonna get around the
fly
US.
in and out. So we got several around here. A lot of them were moved from things that we've had to cancel last summer. Festivals here that are around. So we've got several. I've canceled 4 tours in a row now in Europe because of this. All those tours, we've moved the dates. So I basically have all those tours now. I have several tours booked through 2024.
So you're going back to Europe as well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're booked through 2024.
Mm-hmm.
Our next tour right now is this fall in Europe. Will it happen? We can't say for sure yet.
Okay,
You know,
but
but it's looking like it might.
We don't know.
Yeah, basically Europe needs to be at 70% vaccinated for them to open up 100%, which is what we need to go.
And for the people watching in the future, we're talking about COVID-19. That's why we have the mask. We've got the distancing.
This is the
We
Johnson
all
and
had our
Johnson
shots.
tour. It's sponsored by Johnson and Johnson.
All right. Before I'm going to have you take us out with a story that I heard. I want you, but before we get there, your manager. I'm sorry, but the jacket just don't make it. We're going to hook your manager up with a proper jacket for being on the show.
Oh, cool.
So I'll go grab that.
What do I get?
This must be an edit point right there. Snoop, snoop.
So, for appearing on the show, we're going to hook Kevin up with a used jacket.
I'm sorry.
Here we go.
That might be his son, but I have that jacket of his father's.
Is that
I won't wear because I bought it when he passed away. But at least it's his son. If it wasn't if this was somebody else.
There's another one. Not in the best of shape, but Kevin is a NASCAR fan.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. And it's funny, you got his son's jacket.
So now he has
I was a
the
big
set.
Dale Earnhardt fan, so.
Good. Well, now you have the complete set. If there's any drugs or alcohol in the pockets, please return those.
I'll be sure to put them into my pockets.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kevin Fillo
Thank you.
and the great Randy Hansen.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank my crew, Dave Alexander on cameras and editing, his assistant Max X, the wisdom and knowledge of the great Randy Hansen. Once again, Dave Alexander on editing and cameras,
Dave.
his assistants Max
Thanks,
X.
Max.
Eddie Campione is absent today, and we'd like to also thank
You missed it, Eddie.
132. All right, Blue, and thanks for watching.
This is for Jimmy.